Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's health break. I'm Melissa Patterson, and I'm one of the health coaches for Symbol, and I work with the city of Auburn. For attending today, if applicable for your employer, you will receive either 25 points or one ticket. During today's health break, we will go over what food additives are and why they are used. The additives we'll be focused on are potassium bromate, parabens, food dyes, glyphosate, and processed meat and red meat. We will touch on the dangers of these as well as on governmental regulations and what we can do ourselves to cut down on exposure. So, what exactly are food additives? Many different food additives have been developed over time to meet the needs of large-scale food processing. Additives are added to ensure processed food remains safe and in good condition throughout its journey from factories or industrial kitchens to warehouses and shops, and finally to us, the consumers. Additives are also used to modify the sensory products of foods, including taste, smell, texture, and appearance. Food additives can be derived from plants, animals, or minerals, or they can be chemically synthesized. There are several thousand food additives used, all of which are designed to do a specific job. Over the last few decades, the number of chemicals added to foods and other products has skyrocketed. We have created all sorts of plastics that are used in innumerable ways. We add preservatives to foods to keep them fresh. We add chemicals to foods to make them look more appealing. We add chemicals to lotions and beauty products to make them feel, look, and smell nice. The list goes on and on of the ways we have invented and used chemicals. We did all of it for what seemed like good reasons at the time, but we are learning that many of these chemicals can cause real harm. That is what we will be talking about today. First on the list is potassium bromate. Potassium bromate is a chemical additive commonly used in baked goods such as bread, pastries, bagels, and pizza crusts. It is typically added to flour to help dough rise higher and improve texture. First introduced to baking in 1914, potassium bromate entered the market at a time when there were no regulatory agencies in the United States to evaluate the safety of the food additives. When the FDA was created in 1958, the additive was automatically added to the generally recognized as safe category and has not been formally reviewed since 1972. Potassium bromate has been linked to several serious health risks. In 1999, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is part of the World Health Organization and is the world leader in cancer research, classified the chemical as a group 2B carcinogen, meaning possibly carcinogenic to humans, based on multiple animal studies where there was an increase in both renal, which is kidney, and thyroid cancers. Several animal studies over the last 50 years have also found an increase in thyroid disease, kidney damage, brain and behavioral changes, as well as reproductive harm. The FDA does not have any regulations on the additive and has only encouraged bakers to stop voluntarily using potassium bromate in baked goods. Some states, however, are taking matters into their own hands. California signed a bill banning the sale, distribution, and manufacturing of products containing potassium bromate, and this goes into effect in 2027. Utah has also banned the chemical in school lunches. It has been banned as a food additive in Europe since 1990, in Canada since 1994, in India since 2016, and other countries that have banned potassium bromate include Nigeria, Brazil, Argentina, South Korea, Peru, China, and Sri Lanka. So what are some steps you can take to reduce your risk? Making your own bread and baked goods, avoiding products with potassium bromate or bromated flour on the ingredient list, and choosing brands that do not use bromated flour, such as Sola, Dave's Killer Bread, and Arnold's. Next are parabens. Parabens are chemicals known for their preservative and antimicrobial properties. They protect products from the things that shorten shelf life, such as yeast, bacteria, and mold. You'll commonly find parabens in personal care products such as hair care, cosmetics, skin care, and wound creams. Parabens are also widely found in processed foods such as cereals, candy, beer, and frozen dairy products. There are multiple types of parabens, the three most common being butyl, methyl, and propylparabens. Parabens are called endocrine disrupting chemicals, which means they are known to interfere with your endocrine system. Your endocrine system consists of the tissues, mainly glands, that create and release hormones. Once parabens enter your body, they mimic the hormone estrogen, and the disruption may affect your entire hormonal system. Most paraben research has been on animals themselves, with limited studies on humans, but research suggests that possible effects of parabens may include disruption to the female reproductive system, decreased sperm count and motility, decreased thyroid function, and increases in estrogen-dependent breast cancer. The FDA does regulate paraben concentrations allowed in personal care products. However, there are currently no regulations on food products. Despite the FDA's lack of action, currently 19 states have active legislators looking to potentially ban propylparabens in food products sold and consumed either in the entire state or public schools. Currently, only California has passed it as a law, and that will go into effect in 2027. Some ways that you can reduce your risk is to look for paraben-free personal care items. They will typically say it right on the front of the bottle. And cutting back on packaged and canned foods and trying to choose whole foods. Most healthcare providers agree that typical amounts of parabens are unlikely to cause health issues, but it's always good to be aware of what's in your hygiene products and food. And reducing your exposure to chemicals is better for your health always. And the good news is that reducing your paraben exposure can provide almost immediate results. A study from 2016 had 100 female adolescents switch to personal care products whose labels stated they did not contain parabens. And after just 3 days, paraben concentrations in the females decreased by more than 40%. Now, here are some great apps you can download to help with your exposure as well. Both the Yucca and Environmental Working Group's Healthy Living apps are a great tool to use to see the impacts of different foods and personal care products have on your health. When at the grocery store, just scan the barcode of any item you may be looking at, and it will instantly rate the item and tell you what hazards may be within the product. The apps will also show you a similar product that is a healthier alternative, and you can also look at the healthiest options in different food and personal care product categories. Next are synthetic food dyes. Next are artificial food dyes. Food dyes were synthesized originally from coal tar and now petroleum, and are used in processed foods to give vibrant colors to products like candy, sports drinks, and baked goods. They're also found in unexpected items like certain pickles, smoked salmon, salad dressings, and even some medications. They are added to eliminate the amount of color loss caused by light, air, extreme temperature fluctuations, and storage conditions, and to make food more appealing and attractive. Dyes are purely cosmetic and do not improve flavor, shelf life, or add nutrients. And over the past 50 years, the use of these synthetic dyes has increased by 500%, with children consuming the most. So this is just an image to compare the difference between the usage of synthetic dyes and not. On the right is the Fruit Loops we all know, bright and colorful, and on the left is the Fruit Loops made in Canada without synthetic food dyes. They use watermelon and blueberries to color their Fruit Loops. Now, ask yourself honestly, which one are you more attracted to? And even if you can talk yourself out of choosing the brightly colored option to choose the healthier, duller version, would you expect the same from a child? There are 36 different food dyes regulated by the FDA, which includes 9 artificial color additives used in foods and drinks, which is what we will touch on today. These are red number 3 and red number 40. yellow number 5 and yellow number 6, blue number 1 and blue number 2, green number 3, citrus red, and orange B. Most of these food dyes are used on all of the packaged and processed foods we see daily with bright colors, such as icing, candy, chips, cereal, canned vegetables, and juices. One I found to be particularly interesting was the usage of citrus red 2, which is only used to give Florida oranges their orange color if the fruit does not change from green to orange, but is ripe. The most popular food dyes are red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6. These three dyes make up 90% of all of the food dye used in the US. Research on the impact of artificial food dyes is still unfolding. However, the primary health concerns surrounding artificial food dyes are hyperactivity, and neurobehavioral issues in children, and cancer risk. The claim about food dyes that has the strongest science to back it up is the connection between food dyes and hyperactivity in children. Several studies have found that food dyes increase hyperactivity in children with and without ADHD, although some children do seem to be more sensitive than others. Allergies may also be a concern. In multiple studies, yellow 5 has been shown to cause hives and asthma symptoms. Red 40 and yellow 6 are also among the dyes most likely to cause an allergic response. As many people, and maybe even one of you on here today, suffer from allergies and what has become year-round and not just seasonal, could it potentially be from the food dyes we are consuming so often? Concerns about cancer in food dyes have surfaced because red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6 may contain contaminants of benzidine, which is a known cancer-causing substance. These contaminants are allowed in the dyes because they are present in low levels, which are presumed to be safe. Animal studies on blue 2 have also found a statistically significant increase in brain tumors. And research on red 3, which is the most controversial dye, was found to give male rats thyroid tumors. Earlier this year, the FDA announced red number 3 will lose its authorization to be used in food and ingested drug products. The ban does not take full effect until 2027, so be sure to continue checking ingredient lists. Interestingly, red 3 has been banned from use in topical drugs and cosmetics since 1990, as the FDA has known about the potential carcinogenic effects of red 3 since the 1980s. Now, let's just take a moment to really think about that. That is 40 years of knowledge about the potential health risks of this food dye that is so harmful we can't put it on our bodies, but have been allowed to put it in our bodies. In April earlier this year, the FDA also announced plans to transition the US from artificial food dyes to natural dyes. This involves revoking authorization for 2 artificial food dyes in the coming months, orange B and citrus red number 2. These plans will also end the use of the remaining artificial color additives in foods and drinks by the end of 2026. Some states are also taking charge. West Virginia passed a bill earlier this year banning all food products from containing red 3 and 40, yellow numbers 5 and 6, blue numbers 1 and 2, and green number 3. California has already banned these same dyes in all food served in public school. And there are 25 other states with active legislature banning 1 or more food dyes. In addition, some companies such as Nestle, Kraft Heinz, General Mills, PepsiCo, and ConAgra have announced they will be voluntarily phasing out artificial food dyes, while others such as Mars and Kellogg, who make some of the brightest of treats such as Fruit Loops, M&Ms, and Skittles, aren't so easily persuaded and are currently holding out until required to make changes. The resistance likely not only comes from the lack of eye appeal, but also in the fact that switching to natural food dyes is suspected to increase the price of product production by about 5%. So what can you do to lower your risk? The biggest sources of food dyes are unhealthy processed foods that have other negative effects on health. Removing processed foods from your diet and focusing on healthy whole foods will improve your overall health and drastically decrease your intake of artificial food dyes in the process. If you do choose to consume processed foods, choose products with natural food dyes. The label will include ingredients such as beet juice and powder, beta-carotene, butterfly pea flower extract, riboflavin, saffron, spirulina extract, turmeric, vegetable, and fruit juices. Processed meat is next, and processed meat refers to meat that has been transformed through salting, curing, fermentation, smoking, or other processes to enhance flavor or improve preservation. Common examples of processed meat include hot dogs, ham, sausages, corned beef, beef jerky, and lunch meat. So why is there a concern for processed meat? Consuming processed meat has been linked to an 18% higher risk of colorectal cancer. The IARC has classified processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, which means it has been proven to be carcinogenic to humans. There are 3 chemicals in particular that have been linked to colorectal cancer. One of these chemicals occurs naturally in meat, the others develop or are added as part of the process to produce these meats. Heme iron occurs naturally, which is a pigment found mostly in red meat. Heterocyclic amines and polycyclic amines are produced when meat is cooked at high temperatures. And nitrates and nitrites, which are added as a preservative to prevent the growth of bacteria, while also adding a salty flavor and reddish pink color. When these are exposed to high heat and or stomach acids, nitrites can turn into nitrosamine, a compound that causes cancer. Research also shows an increased risk for other chronic diseases such as high blood pressure and heart disease. If processed meat products are part of your diet, you can take steps to reduce or eliminate your risk. These include reading the label. Check the ingredient list for words like nitrate, nitrite, cured, or salted. If you spot these words, it's a processed meat and should be avoided. And if you are going to eat the processed meat, try choosing nitrate, nitrite, and preservative-free. Reducing your portion sizes of processed meat and try eating less frequently. And add grilled chicken, hard-boiled egg, beans, tofu, or flake tuna to your salad instead of cubed deli meat. Try ordering a grilled chicken or fish sandwich instead of a deli sandwich. And try adding vegetables to your omelet instead of bacon, ham, or sausage. And now we will follow processed meat closely with red meat, which refers to all types of mammalian muscle meat, such as beef, veal, pork, lamb, mutton, horse, and goat. You will notice that these same potential health risks in red meat were also found in processed meats. Research suggests that red meat may be associated with an increased risk of colon and rectum cancer. The IARC has classified red meat as a Group 2A, meaning probably carcinogenic to humans. Heme iron, which is abundantly contained in red meat, is believed to cause the increased risk for cancer. Additionally, when meat is cooked at high temperatures, such as grilling directly on open flame and pan frying, carcinogenic compounds are formed. So I know we all love a good char on our meats, but maybe sometimes we can find alternative ways to cook, such as baking or air frying, to cut back on the health risks charred meat may cause. Red meat also increases your risk of heart disease, metabolic issues, and inflammation. Another potential concern are hormones in red meat. Steroid hormones, including estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, are widely used in red meat consumption. These drugs help the animal convert their feed into muscle, fat, and other tissues more efficiently than they would naturally. Research has examined whether steroid hormones in meat affect human health. One study found that while traces remain in meat, their concentrations are generally lower than normal hormone levels in humans. However, concerns still persist about endocrine disrupting effects, particularly for sensitive populations like children and pregnant individuals. Early onset of puberty and reproductive problems have been blamed on the hormones in meat, but much more research needs to be done. The FDA denies that the microscopic amount of hormones in consumed meat can cause any health problems such as these. There are currently no bans in the United States, but the European Union did ban steroid hormones in livestock in 1988 due to uncertainties regarding long-term health risks. Some tips to reduce your risk include looking for hormone-free or organic labels. USDA certified organic meat cannot contain any artificial hormones, antibiotics, or chemicals. Consume no more than 12 to 18 ounces of red meat per week. I know when we're at the store looking at steaks, you may think that big old 1-pound ribeye or giant tomahawk steak look great, but I encourage you to take a moment and really think if it is a necessity, and maybe that smaller 5-ounce fillet will do just fine. Try treating red meat as your side dish instead of the main course, and try going meatless now and then. And last but certainly not least is glyphosate. Glyphosate is an herbicide used to kill certain plants and grasses, manage how plants grow, get crops ready for harvest, and ripen fruit. Glyphosate has been used in the U.S. since 1974 and is one of the nation's most popular herbicides. It's used on lawns, gardens, forests, and for agriculture. The agricultural use of glyphosate has increased sharply since the development of genetically modified organisms, also known as GMOs, which are engineered to withstand glyphosate. It is used on both non-organic fruit and vegetable crops, with the highest use being on corn, cotton, and soybeans, as well as many packaged oat and wheat products. Glyphosate is also the active ingredient in most versions of the weed killer Roundup. Now, before we move on to the next slide, I just want to linger on this picture of the plants getting sprayed with chemicals. This is the reality of the fruits and vegetables we are eating. Now, just ask yourself, does this look appealing? Glyphosate raises many health concerns. Research links cancer risk, mainly non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, to glyphosate. One study found that exposure increased the risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma by 41%. Although the amount of glyphosate residue allowed in food products is regulated, a new study from June of earlier this year finds evidence that the herbicide may cause cancer at doses considered safe by regulators. Following the IARC classifying glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans in 2015, there have been around 170,000 lawsuits filed against Roundup, claiming that the product caused cancer, mainly non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Several studies have also found it raises other health concerns such as neurotoxic effects, liver inflammation, and metabolic disorders at levels currently considered safe. As mentioned, the FDA does regulate how much glyphosate residue is allowed on products. The FDA and EPA both continue to find that there are no risks of concern to human health when glyphosate is used in accordance with its current label. Unlike the IARC, the EPA has concluded based on its research findings that glyphosate is unlikely to be a human carcinogen. There are a small number of cities across the U.S. that are restricting the usage of glyphosate, mainly in public places such as parks and on school properties. 14 countries such as Germany, India, Vietnam, and France have either banned or restricted the usage of glyphosate. Why do you think all these other countries are reducing its usage, but the United States is not? Some ways that you can reduce your risk include eating organic fruits and vegetables and grains as much as possible, washing and peeling your fruits and vegetables if you can't get organic, and avoid using herbicides with glyphosate as an ingredient. If you do use a glyphosate herbicide, follow package directions and always use protective gloves. And to wrap things up, the main thing we wanted you to gain from today's health break is a better understanding of how certain additives in our everyday food could be putting your health in jeopardy. And these additives discussed today are really just the tip of the iceberg. So I encourage everyone to do some research of your own on what you are eating daily, because you are the only person who truly cares and is in charge of what goes into yours and your family's body. So try cutting back or cutting out processed foods. Choose organic meats, fruits, and vegetables to eliminate some of these additives. If choosing organic is not an option for you, try to cut back on red meat consumption and wash your fruits and vegetables. The biggest thing is just be mindful of what we are putting into our bodies every single day. So thanks everybody for joining us today. I'll now take a few minutes to answer any questions you all may have. Y'all have a great day.